Joining us now is the mayor of the other city in the Twin Cities, the mayor of St. Paul, Minnesota, Kaliher. Mayor, thank you for being with us.
Yes, thank you so much for being with us. Your reaction to the news that Greg Bovino and some federal agents are leaving your state?
I mean, I'm hopeful that this isn't just a shift in tactics to address a political perception or problem, but that it is really going to be a change in how they're going to be operating in our cities here. So all I can do is be hopeful.
Mayor, for me, at least, it's not just the fact that Bovino's leaving and Holman's coming in and the president is up here, say, oh, yeah, we got to bring the temperature down. Well, dude, you were the one that increased the fire. You're the one that turned the flame up on the stove. But I think the important thing is the way the administration is approaching this, the investigation into the death of these two individuals, to me, is paramount right now. How do you lend your voice? How do you coordinate? I mean, what is the investigative part of this into Mr. Petty's death and Ms. Good's death? How does that play out? Because that's the part that the federal government right now seemingly wants to sweep under the rug. And by putting out this, oh, well, Bovino's leaving, we're going to bring the temperature down, but we're not investigating what happened here.
That's right, Michael. I think that you are completely spot on. You know, it's not even just the fact of like how they've executed Operation Metro Surge. It is that the trust that has been eroded because of what they are, the narrative that they have put out there that completely does not match the actions of what we are seeing being videotaped by our citizens here. And so the only way to rebuild that, they can pull out all the troops that they want, in which we would welcome that. But unless they are willing to have transparent investigations, letting our Bureau of Criminal Apprehension come back in, our BCA come back in and be part of these investigations, and being able to let our local police departments be involved the way they have been in the past. I think that that is the only way that we can really create that transparency and build trust so that we can move forward. Otherwise, it is just switching out one individual for another leader who, as you all stated, has done some things that make it so that it's our communities still feel scared and will be afraid to leave their homes.
Mayor, if you could give us some insight into what you know specifically about the teams or the individuals that are leaving. We've heard about Greg Bovino, but the BORTAC teams, which are the Customs and Border Patrol Special Elite Unit, these are the folks that have been leading a lot of the operations in your city and others. And I was struck by listening to you in the shadow hearing that Democrats held in Minneapolis and St. Paul just days and days ago. And you said that you yourself had been advised that you might need to carry identification on you to underscore that you are, in fact, an American citizen because of the profiling that has been happening to communities in the Twin Cities, not just Latino, but the Asian American communities, in the Somali communities, and others. So are the BORTAC teams also leaving? Who else is leaving? Because what gives you hope if you don't have specifics about the individuals and the groups that have been causing some of this real consternation in your city?
I think that that's part of the confusion, right? When we see people wearing tactical gear that just says police, I don't know the difference, neither do our community members, whether somebody is ICE, whether somebody's border patrol, whether someone is, another type of, federal agent, we don't know. And so unless there's going to be more clear identification of who and what they were here to actually try to do, I don't know if there's going to be the security that people will have or that they can feel hopeful. I mean, we've seen agents break down doors. I don't know which agents were the ones that did that. We've seen people being forcibly removed from private property. And so, I have not been briefed on specifically which units, which agents, and who, and the number of them that will be removed. I want to remind people that right now we are outnumbered. At the last time I looked, it was 3-1. From what I understood, when more troops came in, we were outnumbered 4-1. We have about, under 600 sworn troops, police officers. Minneapolis has about 600. I mean, they had thousands of agents here. And so you can remove one or two of them, but the fundamentals of the Supreme Court giving them free rein to profile people by the way that they look or the way that they sound. They're being told that they can still operate with immunity. Those things haven't changed, regardless of who you remove out of our cities here.
Mayor, I think part of what has been so captivating watching what is unfolding in your state is that it is some of the worst of America and some of the very best. It is telling to me that the acts of neighborly love, the acts of community are being described by this Department of Justice as though they must be nefarious networks of troublemakers, because they simply cannot imagine community that loves each other so fiercely that they would go out in temperature that feels like 6 degrees to protest for what they believe is right and to stand with their neighbor. And I wonder, as you have watched this chaos be unleashed on your city, what it has meant to you and what you believe the message your constituents are sending their fellow Americans about the stakes of this moment that we find ourselves in.
I am so proud of Minnesotans that in the face of despair and anger and chaos, that they have pulled together. I personally have been with community where I was the person locking and unlocking doors at a supermercado in order to make sure that ICE wasn't entering the facilities. I've delivered groceries to people who were afraid to open their door, knowing that it was the mayor of St. Paul that was delivering their groceries to them, that they were still afraid. And that I am so proud of Minnesotans. And I know that anytime we see a couple people gathered, I think that our federal government wants to call it protesting or wants to believe that we're planning something nefarious. But boy, we're just showing up to love each other. And that is the Minnesota spirit, and that is the Minnesota way. And that is the Minnesota that welcomed my family as refugees to this country. This is the place in which we were able to break that cycle of poverty in one generation. It is the place that taught us English and provided educations for us. That this is the state that showed up to help us learn what it meant to become Americans, and that we will continue to be that state despite what is in front of us. And I hope that the rest of the country and the world sees what a beautiful spirit Minnesota has and the love that we have for each other, and that whatever happens to the rest of the state, because I don't believe that this is going to end, that everyone remembers us as the example of how you show up for each other in the face of despair.
Mayor, thank you for that. Thank you. What a perfect way to send the message, not just to Minnesotans, but to the American people.